What's up, everybody? Nick back here with you from Project Central, and today we're going to go over my recommendations for this gift giving season for that welder or fabricator in your life, coming from somebody who actually welds and fabricates. I am obviously not a professional. I'm doing this in my garage, but I've been welding and fabricating for a long time on my own projects and sometimes for other people. And I love buying tools, as noted by my garage. So let's dig into some of my favorite gifts that you could be giving the person you're shopping for this year. Let's get started. Remember, this list is going to be geared mostly towards someone who welds and fabricates mostly metal and sheet metal, right? So keep that in mind. The first thing I'm going to recommend is these fast cap tape measures. These are my favorite because they are lefty righty. So no matter which way you pull it, you have legible numbers that are upright, and they have, 1/16 of an inch marks to be accurate. These are my favorite. These are super cheap. I think they're $7 or $8 a piece for the 16 foot. I've got 3 or 4 of these in my garage, and I love them. They're great. All right, next up is going to be a combination square. This one's from Harbor Freight. It's kind of cool because it's got imperial on one side and metric on the other. I don't know if you can see that. If not, I'll show some other close-ups. But what's cool is this thing will slide. So it's got a little thumb screw right here, right? And this will slide. So if you need to make a bunch of repeated marks at 2 inches, you can set the square to 2 inches. Say you've got a piece of plate, you need to make some marks all the way around the edge at 2 inches or 3 inches or 1.5 inches or whatever that measurement may be. You can do this from the edge, or they're also kind of handy. You could absolutely do that with a tape measure, but like if you have a piece of tube, it's nice to get, maybe it's a funky spot, use the combination square on the piece of tube or whatever you're doing. It needs a right angle. These are super handy. I really like them, and they make great gifts because these are Harbor Freight. I think this is less than $10. So we mentioned measuring and marking. So those are a couple of my favorite ways to measure, but as far as marking goes, I've got a couple items I really like. So we've all used the regular old soapstone, right? This is pretty good, marks on all sorts of stuff. You can kind of sort of erase it, sorta. So that's the old-fashioned, just rectangular. They make these round ones. These are kind of cool because they're a little bit easier to hold, and if you're trying to do something, they work just as well. That's a great basic thing. But the 2 things that I really recommend, one is these Milwaukee Inkzall markers. These things are awesome. I like these a lot better than Sharpies just because they're about $1 a piece, and you can get them all sorts of sizes from these, regular Sharpie sized ones all the way up to jumbo ones. But they work really good. Say you need to be real exact. Real exact. You put that Sharpie on there. Then you take just like this is just like a scribe. And say I needed something right exactly at 1.5 inches, 3.5. You take it. You can just scratch away that Sharpie, and it is a great way to do more detailed layout. But one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite items, it's called a silver streak, right? So this is a silver streak, and it will write on anything, right? This is kind of just old tube with the mill scale still on it, and it writes on there super great, and you can erase it pretty easily. It really acts kind of like a pencil, but for working on metal, right? So like woodworkers use a regular carpenter's pencil. This is kind of like that, but for metal. And if you're wanting to, say you're needing to make a notch or something, that's very, very rough shape. But these are great, and they're super cheap also. And if I didn't say it at the beginning, I'll have links to everything down below for Amazon. So if you need anything, feel free to click on the links below. It helps the channel out and doesn't cost you any extra, so win-win. There's two other things for measuring that I really like. Get a piece of tube back, and that is these cheap manual angle finders. These are awesome. You need to measure the bend in a tube. Boom, 32-degree bend roughly, right? And the other thing that's cool, do it where you guys can see it, is that it also works on the inside, right? So these are really neat because they work on the inside and outside, like 109 inside degree bend, roughly. They make longer ones, they make bigger ones too, but these are great for like tight spaces. So that's really cool. But then they also make, oh, I hope the batteries aren't dead on this. They make these magnetic digital ones. These are super trick and they're very cheap. What's really cool about these is you can get stuff not just the true level, but it's also relative to each other. So if I come over here and I hit 0, it resets that, and then I can come over here and it shows a 52-degree difference, right? So you can know that these two are, this is about a, from here to here is about a 50-degree bend. These are great for like when you're bending tube, or that's primarily what I use it for, or setting like pinion angles if you're like fabricating a rear axle or something. These are super handy, super trick. Can't remember what these are, 30, 40 bucks. They're pretty, I don't use this one a lot, but when I need it, it is absolutely invaluable. And this is going to be a great stocking stuffer for somebody. Speaking of stocking stuffers, I've got 5 different types of angle grinder attachments. If you've got someone you're shopping for, or like I said earlier, maybe you are looking for ideas for your Christmas list, you can always add another angle grinder to the list. You know, an extra $30 or $40 grinder, or heck, even an extra $15 grinder sometimes is a huge shop improvement, just for the sake of being able to put different discs on different grinders in order to save time in the shop, right? So if you've got one with, like this one's got my cutoff disc on it, I've got another one with a flap disc and another one with a wire wheel on it. It keeps me from changing different types of discs all the time when I want to move from one operation to the next. And let's talk about those operations. We've got some heavy grinding discs, and packs of these are great. Consumables, it sounds like a boring gift, but trust me, if I got a box of grinding wheels, I would be so happy, because you know, when you run out of these and you're trying to work on a project, you got to scrape the bottom of the barrel. You got to use stuff that's not quite right for what you're trying to do. So having a good stock of these is awesome. These are Redline. I don't know who makes them, but I've had these for a while. These red ones are pretty good. Also, I buy bulk packs of flap wheels and cutoff discs. I use the two of these the most. These flap discs really have a lot of control, and they're good for like mill scale and cleaning stuff up, and then obviously cutoff disc for actually cutting. So a big pack of these, you will get some thank yous. The last kind is wire wheels. I've got a few different type of wire wheels. I mentioned earlier that I have a grinder set up just for wire wheel work, because it's the wire wheels, especially the knotted ones. Like this is a knotted cup wheel. This is good for cleaning up surfaces, and this is like a kind of a cheaper, less abrasive wire wheel. They're great for removing paint, removing mill scale, removing a lot of the contaminants before you weld and you're doing surface prep, but you're not digging into the material at all. It's really just for cleaning and stuff. These do good, and like I said, I'll have links to everything down below. Let's talk a little bit about some gear, right? Some PPE. I have this welding shirt my wife got me a few years ago, and as you can see, it is very well used. I just want you to think that every single spot on here, not the dirt obviously, but every single welding spot on here, like all of this splatter, is a time that I didn't get splatter burned into my arm and chest and face, maybe not face, but like anything this will cover. This is FR material, so it's meant to stop welding splatter and stuff. Like look at this one. Look at that one. That would have burned and maybe even left a scar. So a good FR shirt. They also make like welding apron, like leather aprons and stuff. I like the shirt because, not right now because it's still 90 degrees here in Oklahoma, but when the weather gets cooler, these are great to, these actually get pretty comfortable. Next up is going to be the welding cap. So instead of a ball cap, I can put this on and then put the welding hood over it. So that will help protect any sparks or anything falling from up above when you're doing overhead welding, and that will keep the top of your head from getting burned. One of my favorite pieces of PPE are these WorkTunes Connect. So these are regular noise canceling headphones made by 3M, but it's got Bluetooth. You can be out here grinding away while still listening to the football game, listening to the baseball game, whatever sport you're into, listening to the podcast, listening to music, whatever, because things get loud in the shop when you're making progress. So these are my favorite. I think the price of these has gone up. I think they're still about 75 or 80 bucks a pair. Definitely worth it. These have been awesome. I've had these for years and I love them to death. We got consumables. We've got some gear. We're getting ready to weld. I know a lot of fabricators have these. These are just pretty normal magnets. I've got 3 different sizes here. These are handy. Don't ever get me wrong. They are handy because they'll do a 90-degree angle. They'll do, like a 45-degree angle this way, or whatever you need as far as like whichever way you're putting a tab together. So you're doing a 90-degree angle on a tab, boom. These things work great. Strong hand, maybe you need a weird angle. Let's try to make a weird angle. Maybe you're trying to weld something off the side like this, right? This will do it. Maybe you need it at a different angle. Maybe you need it at a different angle. This will hold it on there. Maybe you need it at a 30-degree angle instead of a 45-degree angle. These things are pretty cool. I use this one a lot for welding on tabs on suspension work or roll cages and stuff. So, and I bought this thing about 8 or 9 years ago, and they were 12 to 15 bucks. And somehow Strong Hand has kept them about the same price. So if you do any sort of work where you need an extra set of hands, you're trying to weld something small on, this is pretty good. These are pretty good. I like these. But the regular little 90-degree magnets also pretty handy, especially if you're doing like setup work and you need just an extra set of hand or 2. All right, speaking of an extra hand, we've got some clamps. So a couple extra clamps, right? These are just regular 4-inch C clamp. I think all of these clamps I got from Harbor Freight. So they're just the regular F clamp. This is traditionally a woodworking clamp, but I use these a lot. I use these a lot for welding. I actually built my welding table around being able to use these and these. So they are still flipping handy because sometimes you just can't fit everything in the C clamp and you need the good, 12 inches of reach or whatever. So I think these are $4 a piece at Harbor Freight, and these are, I don't know, about the same. But I'll try and find some cheap ones and post some links down below. But what there are cheap ones on Amazon, I know, is these. These are like a regular vice grip, right? Regular vice grip, but they have these pads. So if you are, maybe you got 2 pieces of metal you're trying to clamp together so that you can keep the same spot, burn this piece in or whatever. I think I saw a 4-pack of these for like 30 bucks. It's pretty good. These are pretty flippin' handy. And they are like a vice grip, so they lock pretty tight. I like them a lot. Now just a couple miscellaneous things. The first miscellaneous thing, I've mentioned Harbor Freight a couple times, and that's going to be their Inside Track Club. That Inside Track Club will really pay for itself throughout the year, especially if you're buying a bunch of welding and fabricating consumables and equipment throughout the year. We bought a generator this last year, and we saved over $100 just on that one purchase from the extra coupons we were applying from the Inside Track Club. So for the $30, $40, whatever it is right now for the 1 year, it will absolutely pay for itself in one purchase if you buy something really big. I was skeptical at first, but it's actually turned out pretty good for us. All right, kind of the miscellaneous products at this point. This stuff, this Ultra SP, this cutting tool, cutting oil. I use this over the drill press. It works really good for when you're cutting holes and stuff. You're building cool stuff. They're building cool stuff, so they're gonna be drilling some holes. Speaking of drilling holes, these are Clecos. If you haven't seen these before, they were pretty cool. You can drill. These are 1/8" Clecos, so you drill like if you got two pieces of sheet metal you're trying to hold together. You drill an 1/8" hole, and these are like a temporary rivet. Right, so if you've got somebody that does a bunch of sheet metal work or car restorations or whatever, these are pretty cool to have. They're pretty trick. And speaking of holes and stuff, these are center punch set, right? So you see they've all got different diameters. So if you've got a hole, you're trying to line up with another piece underneath it, or like something on a car's firewall. You're trying to mount something. You take whichever one fits in the hole, the snuggest. You take it and you give it a little boop on this end, and it makes a little It makes a little boop. It makes a little divot on this business end here. And what that does is when you pull your piece out, you've got an exact center where to drill. So these are pretty handy because sometimes you're trying to mount something on a firewall or on the back part of a car or whatever, and you need to know exactly where to drill the hole so you can bolt something up. This is how you do it. I think this set was only like $20 also, so another great, inexpensive gift. We've got one more item, kind of a big one. All right, so if you're looking for a big gift, this is the Harbor Freight brand. Out of all my tools that have changed, other than like actually getting a welder and stuff, my tools that have really upped the game of being able to fabricate and work quickly and efficiently is the Portaband. This is the Bauer, so I don't know if this is the good one or the upper end one. I can't remember anymore. But I've had this one for 4 or 5 years. Been through a bunch of saw blades on it. This thing cuts tube way faster than you can with a grinder. It's way quieter than a grinder. So if you're like me and you've got kids and you're doing this stuff at night, this is way quieter, and it's way less hassle to clean up. Right, it leaves a little burr that all you do is you take a deburring tool, which I'll link some of those down. I don't have any handy. I can't find mine. But the deburring tools, you just run them around the inside and outside, and your stuff's cleaned up. So Portaband, very nice. And Harbor Freight makes a really cool Portaband stand where you turn it into a vertical chop saw, and Swag Off-Road makes a stand to turn it into like a stationary vertical bandsaw, which is pretty cool. I need to get one. But anyways, that's all I've got for this list. I really hope that this helps you shop for that person in your life who's constantly got dirty fingernails and is cussing at their projects because they're taking too long, and but they are a good fabricator, or they're trying to get better. So this holiday season, let's invest in our fabricators, and hopefully this list helps. If there's anything you really liked, or there's something I missed in this list, comment down below so that other people can see what would make a great gift. And do what you always do, everybody. Take care of one another, and I will see you next time we're in the garage fabricating something. Oh, who got all this stuff out? I need to put all this stuff away. Bye.